morning, everyone. Respected dignitaries, honored speakers, and dear participants. There is an increasing demand for a new version of cricket game, which is T10. I think we no more have a patience of sustaining our interest for T20. We moved from 5 days to 1 day to probably 4 hours. Now we just want it for not more than 1 hour. So is the case with me. I've been given 10 minutes. So I'll try, and you will hear from me in next 10 minutes about some of the experiences, what we have of creating impact along with the scale in India, both central and state government. I think when we're dealing with the success, what we have seen in last 10 to 15 years around digital governance, the kind of transformation what we have seen, I just want to talk about what we have seen in last last decade or 15 years. I think the transformational aspect, what we have seen in last 10 years is around the number of Aadhaar cards what we've issued. So we've issued more than 1.35 billion identities. And definitely this has led to the foundation. That foundation has resulted in the tremendous usage of smartphones. I'm not talking about basic versions, I'm talking about smartphones. There are more than 800 million smartphone users. And more importantly, the one payment which we can claim, which we have invented, is UPI. So just guess, there are more than 18 billion transactions that are happening on a monthly basis. And by the way, this is getting global. Increasingly, more and more countries are showing interest to adopt this. I think the government also has done something very interesting in terms of creating this digi lockers, which essentially is providing a platform for availing multiple services. There are more than 540 million digi lockers in India at this point of time. And more importantly, in a system, what we are dealing with, the population, what we have, the number of government departments, state, center, there, of course, we can expect grievances. The number of grievances what we have handled online is more than 1.1 crores in last 5 years. I think more importantly, around the digital infrastructure that is being set up, we have more than 30 plus Meghraj data centers. Again, I picked up some of these themes. This may not completely explain the transformation what we have seen, but while we are seeing this transformation, is it good enough? Is it sufficient? I think the government, whether state, center, at whatever the level what we are talking about, what kind of considerations they have. I mean, the issues what they have seen, the issues what they are expecting. Inevitably, there are the policies are driven by growing public expectations. Where are these public expectations? They are coming from around welfare expansion. They are coming around targeted social welfare schemes. There is an immense expectation around infrastructure development, urban planning. I think one of the most important issue what governments are dealing with is around food safety, soil quality. And there is, it may not be very evident in our public discourse across media, but this is going to be one of the biggest challenges what we will see in the next decade. And that is where governments are thinking about working a lot around deploying AI in agriculture, around soil quality, and getting more from less. There is tremendous competition across ministries and central government, ministries and state, in terms of attracting the investments. And that is predominantly driven by ease of doing business. So governments, ministries are doing everything to attract the investment. All of this has to be seen in the realm of the fiscal management. We have a constraint around funds, we have a constraint around budgets. So all of this has to be seen in the context of, or a realm of, or constraint of fiscal management and debt consolidation. Now, when we are talking about AI in governance, data in governance, I picked up this particular report from Economist, where they have done a research and survey speaking to multiple departments like yours across the globe, including India, trying to ask this question. The question is around which of the following use cases in your organization currently exploring with AI technology. And if you see the responses are very, very diverse. The responses include, we want to use data and AI technology for data analysis and, of course, predictive analytics. They're talking about cyber security, which is, of course, is one of the top priorities across all the departments, and fraud prevention. They're also talking about not restricting the usage only internal data, but also looking at external data. We come across this word federated data. There is also a lot of expectation around using not just traditional structured data, but also unstructured data in terms of documents. What you also see something interesting, which is a buzzword at this point of time, is around agentic AI. There is mention of about automation of repeatable tasks, but agentic AI is about not just automation, but also taking decisions which can be taken automatically falls under the realm of repeatable tasks. And document summarization, we have seen a lot in last 2 years around LLMs. Okay, there's tremendous usage around LLMs in terms of document summarization. Again, so looking at these diverse requirements across multiple departments, both federal as well as state level, is there a recipe? Is there a framework? Is there a technology that can meet these diverse requirements? Okay, given the maturity of usage, both in terms of understanding and usage of AI/ML, right? The answer is yes. Okay, what is that? So the answer lies in the platform, what we offer, what we call it as data and AI life cycle, which enables the users to ask questions on the data and essentially gets answers to take decisions. I think this entire life cycle, which involves managing data governance, what we refer about. Now, this data could be structured, unstructured. This could be real time, batch, near real time. This could be internal, external, multiple dimensions around data. Exploiting this particular data. And by the way, these days, the issue is not about data sufficiency. The issue is not about data scarcity. The issue is about how do we deal with the data variety and data explosion. My first slide spoke about the transformations what we are going through, and each of those elements is generating so much amount of data. So how do we essentially manage this entire data is one of the critical components. The second, of course, is given this data, how do we identify, make sense out of this data? And that is where it is important to identify the repeatable patterns in the data so that we generate insights, and those insights can be deployed for decision making. What I want to do, while it might sound slightly theoretical, I'll get into some of the practical deployments, success stories, which tested the scale as well as the impact. Now, what are those stories? And by the way, all these stories, what I'm talking about are the stories are in the Indian context. We're dealing with data problem, compute problem, and usage problem for decision making. So what do we mean by proactive? Here is where the state wants to essentially identify, qualify the beneficiary, identify the benefits, what the beneficiary is eligible for proactively, and send a communication to them across the life cycle of that particular family or citizen, right? Very, very ambitious. But is it in action? The answer is yes. So this is where we are talking about the state with 12.5 crore citizens, taking data from 21 departments and distributing benefits more than 1 lakh crore. Okay. And the key thing what I mentioned here is moving a beneficiary applying for the benefit versus a government going to a beneficiary and saying that, by the way, you're eligible for this, right? So this is already a success story. The second one, which is relevant from the again, a transformation story, what we had in India is around GST. GST in a particular state, where they want to improve the GST compliance. And that is where they've been using this for more than 10 years. And they've seen the immense benefits around this. And the benefits, in the year one itself, they identified an evasion of more than 2,100 crores and recovered 1,100 crores. And it is multiple times the investment in the year one itself, the kind of benefit what they've seen, right? And the third one, which is backbone of our country, which is agriculture, which I mentioned, is going to be a critical issue for in the next decade, both in terms of food safety as well as soil quality. Now, one use case, which has got an impact right at a farmer level, is where a large state, a farmer identifying some yellow spots on the leaves of the paddy, what he has sown, wants a quick resolution on what could be the probable remediation. Now, farmer will have a lot of constraints. The constraints could be in terms of communication, language, and also disseminating that information to the right authority. Here is where he can just take a photograph or speak in the local language or take a video of that and upload it. And using a combination of custom, large language models and SAS decision-making capabilities, the farmer gets an immediate response on the possible remediation so that the remediation can be applied immediately. Now, it is generally believed, and the studies reveal that if a farmer can identify the problem in a week, the loss will not be more than 5%. And as the time passes, the impact of the loss is, keeps increasing. Now, the second extension to this is based on farmers essentially reporting this. The government at a state level and central level can identify if a particular issue is taking the form of a pandemic so that they can, take remedial actions. And the last one, health, again, is one of the important focus both for state governments and central governments. Health, there are, whether it is 𝐅𝐮𝐭𝐮𝐫𝐞𝐆𝐯 Bharat or the schemes which are floated by state governments, there's a big spend happening given the focus of state and central governments around this. One of the side issues around this is around payment integrity itself. The scheme is highly vulnerable for abuse by various players. Now, here is where we are working with one of the states where we are talking about beneficiaries to the extent of 2.7 crores, 1436 hospitals, daily claims around 1800, and claim amount that is being paid on a yearly basis around 3000 crores. Just imagine the size of the scheme with respect to a state. Now, one of the issues what we are dealing with to identify abuse is we look into unstructured documents. Unstructured documents could be a diagnostic document or the discharge summary, or it could be something like X-rays, CTs, any of that. We look into these things to identify if these documents are getting recycled. And we have seen quite a few cases where hospitals do recycle these documents and then make the claims. And that is where we are able to identify and create the impact. So the stories, examples which I spoke about on social benefits, around GST compliance, which has got a revenue implication for state and central governments, AI in agriculture, which is the backbone for our country, and health is again one of the focus areas for government, right? And all of these cases are in action, are deployed, are successfully used by the respective users and respective departments. And finally, I just want to close based on our experience globally, and more importantly, in the Indian context. We essentially can create, SAS can create by virtue of our experience and our knowledge across multiple departments to create an impact along with the scale, dealing with the scale. It could be tax and revenue, social services, which I spoke about, healthcare, which I spoke about, labor, welfare, and employment. Employment definitely is one of the big perception issues at this point of time. And this government is investing a lot in terms of streamlining the data issues around reporting employment, right? Transport, utilities. So there are quite a few power and water utility companies. The government has immense focus through Jal Jeevan Mission around ensuring supply of water to every household. Agriculture is some example of what I spoke about. And of course, governance, decision support. So we have an experience of dealing with all of these problems in the context of India, given the nuances of data, specific requirements in the Indian context. We have experts sitting behind who can essentially take in greater detail around each and every use case should you want to discuss with them. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time.